now it is time to meet the finalists. The 3 lucky writers. Shall I introduce you to them? We're going to find out about their books. We're going to find out about their own personal journeys. And we're going to find out what $25,000 can mean for them. Remember what we heard from Lord Archer? It saved him from bankruptcy. What could it mean to our 3 lucky writers? Let me introduce you to Nitya Neelakanthan, who's flown in from Bangalore. She is the author of Navapashanam. Please make yourself comfortable, Nitya. Dr. Shalini Mullick, who is a practicing doctor who's coming from Delhi and has written The Way Home. How lovely to have you with us. Sit down, please, Nitya and Shalini. And joining us live from Delhi is Yogesh Pandey, the author of The Kill Switch. Yogesh, are you with us? There he is. Hi, Yogesh.
Hello.
We're all delighted that you can join us.
Thank you for having me.
You're most welcome. Now, let's find out a little bit about the books, shall we? I'm going to set you this challenge, Nitya, Shalini, and Yogesh. Tell us on a postage stamp, what's your elevator pitch for your book? What is it all about? And I'm going to ask Shalini to start off with The Way Home.
So The Way Home is a story where 3 millennials form a deep friendship in Goa and embark on a journey of healing and self-discovery.
Okay, so 3 friends come together. You didn't mention Goa.
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 Yes.
Goa. And there's a hospital in there somewhere. Somehow a doctor smuggled a hospital in as well. Yogesh, tell us about The Kill Switch.
So The Kill Switch is a high-stakes sci-fi thriller. On one hand, we have an AI program that has the capacity to hijack into any device, your phones, a military drone, or even your microwave. And decides that the bug on the earth is nothing but humanity and it needs to wipe them off. On the other hand, we have this eccentric genius hacker who has like 50 hours to save the planet and figure out what the kill switch is and to stop them.
So very, very different from Shalini's book, yeah? And now finally, Nitya, tell us about Navapashanam.
Navapashanam is a thriller and a treasure hunt that revolves around a healing device that can magically cure any ailment. It has 2 women 200 years apart who are caught up and their destinies entwined around the Navapashanam.
So quick summary, we have a sci-fi tech thriller that we just heard about from Yogesh, a story about friendship, human connection in Goa, written by Shalini, and an epic quest bringing in myth and fantasy, Navapashanam, which Nitya has written. So very different, right? But one thing that they have in common is that they're all really compelling stories. They are the page-turners that we heard about from Lord Archer and Amish Tripathi. So I want to ask you each, did you set out to write readable stories, Nitya?
I set out to write stories that talk about Indian myth, Indian mythology, Indian temples, things that people haven't really heard about. And
Indians haven't heard about Indian myths and temples? Come on.
India is a very vast country. It's impossible that every Indian would know everything about India, right? Even if you pick up something like the Ramayana or the Mahabharata, very few people know the intricacies of those stories unless you've really read them. So if you ask somebody from the north of India something about temples in the south of India, I don't think they'll be able to answer that. And
you're trying to bring them alive.
Absolutely. So okay. I wanted to tell a story that, that would, help people connect to these things.
Shalini, were you deliberately trying to get as big an audience as you could, hook as many readers as possible in?
I think while we all have our natural styles, we write within them, but for me, it's very important that a story be accessible, that it be relatable to people without people getting lost in the complexity of words and languages, because stories are what connect. Stories are what bind me to my reader. So yes, it's important that the story be simple, even if it is very layered and very nuanced, as my story is, with a lot of emotions. But it is important for me to keep it simple and accessible.
The language as well.
Absolutely, okay. Absolutely.
And Yogesh, I mean, you've written a thriller, which almost by definition keeps the audience hooked. Did you set out to try and write a bestseller?
Not a bestseller, but my aim is that if you're reading my book and you miss the bus while reading it, or you're holding up and you want to go to the washroom, I think that's a victory for me. So I want to get that in the readers hooked. That was my aim.
Okay, so that's something that we heard from Lord Archer and Amish Tripathi, that they wanted to reward not literary writing, but storytelling. And we've heard how that's what motivated our 3 finalists. But we also heard from Lord Archer and Amish that they wanted stories that reflected something about modern India, that had a message about contemporary India. So what would you like us to draw? What do you want your readers to draw from what you have written? Your book, Shalini, is about dilemmas of current life, right? Tell us a little bit about what you think it says about modern India.
So what my book essentially says about modern India is what modern India is today. It is evolving. A lot of the concerns and a lot of the challenges and situations in modern India are similar to those which are across the world, whether it is in trade, whether it is in health, everywhere. But the rootedness of all that is what I wanted to capture. And in my book, that is what I've tried to do. There are 3, these are young people. India is a very young country. So these are the youth of India who are struggling with things, and they find their solace in what is old age India is known for: connections, intergenerational wisdom. These are the hallmarks which my protagonists draw strength from. And that is the complexity that I wanted to show, that both the things exist together.
That's really interesting. It sort of ties into what Nitya was saying also, about
Absolutely.
bringing new life to these ancient myths and wisdoms and mining them to find the relevance for today. So I'm going to put the same question to you. Is it a mirror in any way of contemporary India, Navapashanam?
Absolutely. So one of the protagonists is from modern day India, and she struggles with coming to terms with something like a device that can magically heal everybody, and her entire journey is probably all of our journeys.
So we should quickly just tell the audience that one of the protagonists is living today, and the other is what, several hundred years ago, right?
2 centuries ago.
Okay. And it's
Britain
really
had
the
colonized
journey
India.
of discovery between our modern-day heroine and her ancestor that the book is all about. So what does it say, then, about the sort of dilemmas that young people face today in India?
I think, what Shalini said, that we could draw from ancient wisdom and still believe in modern sciences and technology and AI and all of that, and they can very well go hand in hand.
And Yogesh, are you still with us? Yogesh, you've written a thriller. It started off in California, right, if I remember, maybe San Francisco, and it ends up in Mumbai. And I think the bulk of it then ends up in India. What does that say to us about the links between the great tech capital in California and what's going on in India today?
Well, it's no secret that Indians are leading the Silicon Valley. That is one of the reasons I set the story there. I also wanted to bring the flavor of India into it, and that is why I brought down the story to India. And it speaks about AI, it speaks about technology, and we all know that we Indians, especially the young India today, we are doing tremendous amount of work in that. And apart from that, it also talks about the kind of scariness the technology has brought into our lives, the myths of privacy, and we put all our data on it. And it talks about how, if someone wants to, right, if someone wants to be evil, how they can utilize this and create work all around the world.
Something that's been puzzling me is, how did you find the time to write? None of you are full-time writers, right? Shalini, you work in a hospital. You're a trainer and coach. Nitya, I think Yogesh works in the tech industry. So tell us, what you do. Do you have a discipline? You write a certain amount every day? Do you do it at the same time of day? How are you motivated? Shalini?
So yes, of course, it is a huge challenge. Discipline, so for me, it's both being consistent and being kind to myself. I try and have discipline, but I don't beat myself up when I'm not able to meet my targets because, yes, my work is quite busy. And as you've seen in the book, I tend to bring it into my writing as well. It is a consistent challenge for all writers.
So how do you squeeze it in?
I fit it in by stealing time in the mornings, waking up a little early before I go to work and trying and write every day.
Okay, that's very inspirational. Every morning, what time do you wake up in the morning?
5 a.m.
Oh, my word. Well, that's what inspires you, right, Nitya? Well, how do you fit it into your day job?
I write on weekends, and I have a tracker where I make notes about how many words I've written. You know, so if I'm aiming to write, say, 50, 60,000 words, and then I break it up and I say, okay, every weekend I have to write these many words. Of course, as Shalini said, I will still be kind to myself if I have not met my word target for the day. It's okay. I know I'll catch up at some point of time, but I write every weekend.
Okay, early in the morning, writing, weekend writing. Yogesh, when do you manage to find the time to write?
Well, Nisha, when I was a kid, my father used to tell that you should study 1 hour a day and, that will not pile up. So it took me 2 decades to realize that it was indeed right. So that's the funda I write 1 hour a day. And in a year, it sums up to about 350 hours. That's enough to complete one manuscript, I guess.
So I have to ask you this question. Your book has elements of AI woven into the story, into the thriller. Were you ever tempted to use AI tools to help you with your writing, Yogesh?
Yes, definitely. I think then all writers in the world should buckle up and accept the change, and especially in terms of doing research. Right. So the story is partially based in Silicon Valley. So yes, the research part was what I used AI tools. And in the later part, because when I started writing, the AI revolution was yet to happen. I started the first draft in 2020. But yeah, later on, I think it helped a lot. It helps to save a lot of time.
So he's confessing to using AI to get started, but not for the writing. The two of you, did you ever feel, I just can't get this bit out? It's in my head, but I simply can't get it out. Maybe I'll be tempted to use a Gemini or one of those tools. No?
Never.
Definitely not? Not confessing to us.
I barely even use it for anything else. I'm a little ancient, like a dinosaur. So
okay, well,
I like to put pen to paper. Even when I start, every story that I start, I actually first write in a book and then transfer it to the laptop. So no AI.
Okay, well, journalists, we use every tool we can, all the help we can with our research and writing. So, $25,000. It's a serious amount of money, one of the biggest prizes out there for Indian writing. What would that enable you to do? Would you give up your day job, do you think? What would be the next step if you happen to be the lucky winner? Shalini.
So I think it would mean the world and more to any writer who gets the award. I don't think I would give up my day job because I honestly love my day job. But having an award of that level would give me a lot more freedom to carve out my literary journey in the way that I want. Maybe
what does that mean?
Maybe in terms of taking time off from work to devote myself to my next piece of writing. It could even be for other things which, everyone says writing is a hobby. Of course, it starts out as a hobby for most of us. But, hobbies are expensive too. So it would help us to, suppose you want to do research for a book, you want to have your work professionally edited, to put out the best version of your work out there. So there's a lot that a writer can do with this kind of a corpus, if it's available. I think it would change the life of any writer.
Nitya, I see you nodding.
I agree with everything that Shalini said, and I think both the legendary authors have already mentioned it themselves. If it means taking a break of 5 to 6 months, or just the fact that we are more visible through this award and through this amount of money is really helpful.
So it's like a kind of validation.
Absolutely. That's
interesting. May I ask you, Yogesh, perhaps you don't want to admit in front of us all, but would you give up the day job and go to writing full time if you happen to be the lucky winner today?
I don't think I quit my job, but I for sure will scream out on top of my lungs that writing is a real job and that it can pay. And apart from the validation which we heard about, it also gives kind of a liberation that I might not have to worry about how to pay my rent, but I could use energy to think about how my characters are going to pay theirs. So that kind of liberation is something this prize can provide.
Nice point. Quick last question to you then, all of you. So you're the first batch, as it were. What would you say to other people who might be thinking of applying next year? What would you say to encourage them to put their name in the hat? Nitya.
Tell stories from your heart.
Tell stories from your heart. Oh, that's a lovely message. Shalini?
Don't listen to people who tell you that don't write and that writing's just a hobby and there's no one's reading these days. That is not true. So don't.
What kind of feedback have you had then? No one's reading these days. What have people said to you?
So before I put my book out there, that's the kind of feedback that I got. But once I did get my book out there, the feedback that I got was that so many people related to this story. So obviously someone is trying and waiting to read the stories that we put out there. So just write. There's one word of advice.
Absolutely. And dear friends and colleagues, I have read all 3 books, and I have to tell you, there are definitely readers out there, and I commend them to you too. Let's put our hands together and thank our finalists, Dr. Shalini Mullick, Nitya Neelakanthan, and Yogesh Pandey.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.